I know how this looks. Here comes Damien with another let's reflect on the last 12 months kind of video because he's drunk too much at Christmas and needs a way to ease himself back into making content. I'm not going to lie to you, that's exactly what this is. But the last 12 months have been crazy. So I quit my job to go full-time on YouTube and make finance videos. And in that time, the finance world seems to have collapsed a few times. Today, I just want to discuss some of the things that I've learned from 2022, both from an investing and self-employed perspective. Let's just start with a section I'm going to call Boring is the Next Big Thing. What you're looking at on screen is an advert from 1913 in which the medicinal properties of dunking your hands into electrified water are being reported to the masses. I kid you not, in the early 20th century, it was expected that electrified water would revolutionize the way we did things like clean our clothes or even get over hangovers. Shockingly, it didn't catch on. But the hype around this is an example of Amara's law in action. We tend to overestimate the effect of technology in the short run and underestimate the effect of technology in the long run. There's this initial explosion in interest as we all imagine what the world could be like with this new tech. We scramble to get involved before realizing we've probably overhyped it and the interest fades. But over time, the true potential of the technology emerges. I mean, just in the last few years alone, we've had quantum computers, self-driving cars, the Hyperloop, Zoom, Clubhouse, the metaverse, crypto, NFTs of dead monkeys, check your download speeds because we got 5Gs.
So why does it suck so much?
No sooner has the hype around one game-changing promise faded as another one started. I mean, ChatGPT, anyone?
Become self-aware at 2:14 a.m. Eastern Time.
Look, even I'll admit that I was impressed when I first started using it. But is it really going to get rid of everyone's jobs and displace Google in the next few weeks? Or are people maybe getting a little bit carried away?
An awful lot of excitement about the AI chatbot.
Now, I'm going to get some stick in the comments because some of the things I discuss will no doubt lead to drastic improvements in our lives. I mean, the AI stuff does feel a bit special, doesn't it? But we have to admit, the initial hype fails to capture the time it takes for these things to really catch on. I mean, the internet is probably one of the most important inventions ever and is a classic example of Amara's law.
Can you explain what internet is?
First turned on in 1983, the dot-com bubble, which was this bit of the curve, didn't pop until 17 years later. And even now, 40 years after the internet was born, you could argue we still haven't even scratched the surface with what this thing can do. These things take time. But due to an obsession with change and innovation and the next big thing, many of us rush to get involved with the early iterations and we end up getting poor results. As a broad example on screen is the performance of ARK's flagship innovation ETF, a fund that's designed to invest in groundbreaking, innovative tech and ideas. It's very Amara in its approach. And then versus the S&P 500, just the largest 500 or so businesses in America. Some of them are innovative, many though are considered boring. And the S&P 500 over the last 5 years has outperformed the ARK fund. Now, it's important for me to say, though, that I am benefiting from hindsight here, sitting here presenting examples to you that kind of demonstrate my point. And at certain points in the last 5 years, Cathie Wood was absolutely dominating the returns on offer from the S&P 500. So many could argue that people did benefit from being in her fund. But if we look at the data, it would imply differently. The average dollar invested in a Cathie Wood fund has lost money, as people, effectively, the example that I liken it to, is that when you see young kids playing football in a playground, and what happens is the fastest kids just kick the ball, and everyone else just chases the ball around the pitch. Most investors in ARK's flagship fund bought here, then sold here. This one fund in a way represents everything that the last couple of years has taught us. If we take interest rates and inflation and put that to one side, on a human level, the desire to be part of the next big thing has led to investors just chasing around anything that's got a sniff of promise, only for it really to fall flat in 2022, when really a boring, consistent approach, as is always the case, would have served the majority better. I say the majority because there's always outliers, there's always people that buck the trend and make money in whatever market. But for me, I think it's far more important to look at what works for the masses rather than individual outliers. Which brings me on to my second point. Have a plan that can survive you getting punched in the face. Mike Tyson famously said, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. He was talking to a reporter when he said this, who'd asked him about what he thought of Evander Holyfield's plans to beat Tyson in their upcoming fight. Tyson is actually rehashing a German quote from a guy called Helmut von Moltke, who was a German tactician. No battle plan survives first contact with an enemy. Investors globally have all been smacked in the mouth in the last 12 months. If we're Holyfield, prepared and with a game plan in mind, we stepped into the ring to be greeted by a wild and unpredictable force that is Tyson. So Tyson in this example represents the economic uncertainty globally and change in policy with things like interest rates. Tyson, like the forces that act against your portfolio right now, pummel you and are hard to predict and lead to wild swings in asset prices. So unpredictable was Tyson that he bit a chunk of Holyfield's ear off and spat it on the floor.
There, you see him lift his teeth.
I mean, how on earth do you plan for that? The answer is you can't. Biting an ear off in the boxing ring is about as wild as it gets. Some might call it a black swan event, an unpredictable event that is beyond what is normally expected of a situation and has potentially severe consequences. In our fight for investing returns in recent years, we appear to have had one black swan event after another, land blows directly to us, smacking our portfolios, taking bites out of our profits as they went. How do you plan for this? How do you plan for COVID or for war? The answer is you can't. All the stock pickers who looked like geniuses in 2020 as everything was going up in price have had their ears bitten off by the unpredictable market, and now they're flapping around with no idea what to do.
Why me? Why have I been put in this position?
They say, oh, well, the market's changed and you couldn't have seen that come in. But in reality, they had one plan based on one set of factors being true, namely low interest rates. And now they're not. Evander Holyfield won the fight against Tyson. He wasn't the favourite. He got his ear bitten off, but he won. How? Tyson got disqualified when he tried to bite off Holyfield's other ear. Now, you might say that Holyfield got lucky then, only lost one ear and all that. But I would say that Holyfield actually had a plan that accommodated for Tyson's unpredictability. And then he executed on that plan, and Tyson just essentially took himself out the game. Helmuth, the German tactician's remarks around plans going out the window, I'm not saying that plans are pointless, more that our plans need to accommodate for the unknown, unpredictable nature of our opponent. To him, this was the unpredictability of battle. To Holyfield, it was the wild nature of his opponent Tyson. And to investors, it's having an investing strategy that allows you to not get shaken out the market or to blow up your whole portfolio when the narrative changes, which it always will, given enough time. Now, I always thought that long term, as I gain more and more experience investing, that I would invest less in index funds and ETFs and more in individual companies. I'd become a better boxer, if you will, so I would lean into something that required more skill. That confidence in my own ability was foolish, first of all, but it was as a result of the very forgiving bull run that we've seen in the last few years. Now, I've dabbled in the individual stock game, and I continue to do that, but I sit here now in 2022, or at the end of it, and I feel more confident than ever that a steady dollar cost averaging approach into a global ETF is the exact sort of plan that allows me to survive the punches in the face the market is always going to give us. And if something innovative comes along, if something revolutionizes the way we live, I'll probably own the company that benefits from it anyway, because I buy a global index. You just have to be comfortable with the fact that it's going to be uncomfortable. When times are good, you're not going to 10x like someone who's all in on one stock. But similarly, you also won't see your portfolio dip 90% as the landscape changes. Skilled investors could, in theory, have taken full advantage of the boom in growth stocks in the past few years and then have pivoted into sectors that are performing well now. But for me personally, I don't look at the stock market as a place where I'll make myself rich overnight. The chances of that are slim. I instead look at it as an incredible way to compound my wealth long term inside of tax-efficient accounts, to put the money I earn to work, to ensure comfort in my old age and to outrun inflation. I think over the last few years, many saw investing as a way to get rich quickly, and that has just all unraveled in 2022. But that doesn't mean I don't want to get rich now. I mean, of course I do. Which brings me on to the final lesson from 2022. Let's call this one ROI. So there's this guy called Paul Gillen. I got no idea who he is, but he said something about ROI that I think frames this next point kind of well. When you say ROI, do you mean return on investment or risk of inaction? So when I was full-time employed earning a wage linked to my performance at work, I would earn my money and then I would just slap some of it into a global index fund. Rinse, repeat. As I earned more money, I invested more because it made me feel good, and really because I had nowhere in my life that I could put that cash that represented a better return on investment, or that's what I thought. Well, what I actually mean was I hadn't made one yet. Fast forward to today and I still squirrel every spare penny I've got into index funds because of the habit that I formed over 10 years working full time and just repeating that cycle. And also because I'm anxious that all of this is just going to come crashing down at some point. So I want to make the most out of the opportunity. But the question is, am I making the most out of the opportunity? Return on investment or risk of inaction? Thanks, Paul. So in the last 12 months, my channel has grown roughly 50-60% in terms of subscribers, view count, and the money I earn compared to last year. So it's at this point, there's this kind of realization, or at least a conversation that I need to have with myself around return on investment. When faced with the realization that my own efforts on my own project produced a 50% growth in 12 months during a period where global markets have done nothing but go backwards, really now I need to be asking myself, why am I not investing more in my own development and my own business and my own skills? Why do I find it really hard to back myself in this way and invest in myself? Look, let me be clear. Investing for the long term consistently in a global index fund will likely make me a millionaire in later life, and I will continue to do that month in, month out. But I won't lie and say that I don't want to be rich right now. I'm sure you do too. But in order for that to happen, we need to produce returns on investment. We need to produce an ROI higher than the 9% pre-inflation average that you get from the stock market. 2022 has been a humbling lesson for many that doing that by picking stocks or backing other people's projects is tough. How much money has been lost to crypto scams that could have been spent on personal development, education, or just starting a business? Now, I know it sounds cliche, the whole invest in yourself thing, doesn't it? And I get most people don't have analytics provided by Google on how much their endeavor has grown in the last 12 months. I'm also not saying quit your job like I did. I honestly think for 99% of people, probably myself included, a full-time job is an easier place to build long-term wealth than being self-employed. But I spent 10 years giving my all to a career and progressed really well through that career. I then spent 4 weeks on furlough and focused that energy for just 4 weeks on something for me, and it changed my life. Self-development is one area where you can achieve outsized market-beating returns. A promotion at work, a side hustle, even a new job. All these things will do far more for your finances long-term than chasing the next big thing. And the best thing is, no one can take it off you. No one can rug pull it. It's yours. At the end of 2022 now, it's interesting to me that we've been so willing to commit funds to strangers who claim to have the next big thing without any protection, but many of us won't back our own abilities to deliver results in the same way. I'm speaking to myself here just as much as I'm speaking to anyone who's still watching this. In 2023, I'm going to change that and just commit a small amount each month of the money that I typically invest to my own personal development. Let's just see what returns that gets us.
I've got nothing left.
Right, well, I'll let you go now. But actually, before we finish, first of all, Happy New Year, guys. I hope you had a good time. I hope you're not feeling too sorry for yourself either, if you had a few to drink last night. If you are, though, I asked ChatGPT what the best cures for a hangover are, and I'll pin the response in the comments below for you. Surprisingly, none of them are shove your hands in a bowl of electrified water. But if you made it this far in the video, put a little lightning bolt. And what I'll do is I'll pick one of the comments that have got a lightning bolt on it, and I'll give you 20 quid. Get the year started the right way, shall we? With a loss on my part financially.